I like to keep my eye on what's going on.
That clock is an hour off.
Just for
We noticed that last night during planning board. It's an hour behind.
Is it new?
I don't think so.
It's been about a year.
Okay.
I think he keeps, Carmen keeps changing it. It's been here for about like a year. We got it before Mary and I was retired, so I don't know.
Yeah, they can still have their, you know, if they were,
I mean, I would just think there's some people that have jobs. Just like last night.
I'm gonna know what reason for that.
Five feet.
Are we live?
We are live streaming.
Same.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's looking arrow.
Here's your warrant.
They're gonna strain
You're good. We're live streaming?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good evening. Let's start with the pledge to the flag. Okay, and today on this National Day of Mourning, may we have just a moment of silence in honor of President Jimmy Carter. Thank you. Welcome to the January 2025 meeting of the Town of Lancaster Zoning Board of Appeals. As the year begins, we must bid farewell to our friend and colleague Joshua Bluesky, whose term ended last year. He was a great asset to this board. We thank him for his service, and he will be missed. But now I'd like to introduce our newest member, Robert Mitchell, to my right, and Robert's our newest member, and we look forward to working with you. Welcome aboard. Okay, and I'm going to ask Ms. Crage from the Town Clerk's Office to take the roll.
Sure. Michael Hain,
Here.
Robert Matthews,
Here.
John Wakely,
Here.
Keith Storr,
Here.
Mark Tillmans,
Here.
David Zillick,
Here.
Chairman Monticelli.
Here, thank you. Okay, we have 4 cases tonight. The order they will be taken, the first one is 12 Woodgate. Number 2 is 3 Crabapple Lane. The third one is 0 Ransom Road. And the last is 49 Chestnut corner. Ms. Craig will read each case. We will ask the person who has requested the variance to come up to the microphone and tell us about the project, and then the board will ask questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So if you're here to comment on one of our pending cases, you will have that opportunity. Okay, Andrea, will you read the first case, please?
Sure. The first case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals was the petition of Richard Petchke, Inc., 12501 Broadway Street, Alden, New York, 14004, for one variance for the purpose of installing a whole house generator on premises owned by Brian Amy at 12 Woodgate Drive, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing a whole house generator 1 foot 8 inches from the side property line. Chapter 400 zoning, Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a non-portable exterior heating or air conditioning structure or generator to be located a minimum of 5 feet from any lot line. The petitioner therefore requests a 3 foot 4 inch variance.
Thank you. Hi, would you give us your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Richard Petchke. I guess my work address would be 1250 Broadway, Alden, New York. And on behalf of Brian,
Is
12
Mr.
Woodgate.
Amy here?
Excuse me?
I know you're here on behalf of Brian Amy. We have a
Yep.
letter from him.
Yes, we do.
Just wondering if you're in the audience. Okay, very good. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Petchke.
Just to put a generator on, he wants to install a generator, his property there. Due to restrictions on the rest of the side of the house and other parts of the property, the only area where we would have an option to put one would be in this particular area, which I think his neighbor agreed to at 14 Woodgate, said he had no, I have a letter, I think he probably has got that, no disagreement with putting it in that particular spot. To just, he has a pool back there, a deck in the backyard, all concrete, to just duct it in, you could put it anywhere else. I guess if it doesn't go in this area, it's probably not going in there.
And I'm sorry, did you say you have a letter from the neighbor?
I do.
I don't think we have that. If I could take a look at it. Pass it around. Thank you.
And that's the neighbor, of course, where the generator would go on his side of the property.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Hain, you want to start us off?
Sure. Do you know the approximate distance between the two houses or from where the generator will be set to the neighbor's house?
I don't know the exact measurement on that, but I would have to say 20 feet probably, 20, 25 feet. Yeah. Because there's a driveway, he has a driveway. First, if he's got a grass area probably within 10 feet, and then a driveway, and then a house.
Okay, okay. I did a quick Google Earth measurement on there. I had a little over 20 feet between the houses, so I'm guessing, how far off is the generator from the owner's house?
It's from the owner's house, it'll probably be about 5 feet.
About 5 feet, right?
Yeah.
Probably code for 5 feet off the house, so it's about 15 feet from the neighbor's house, okay. And there is a fence in between?
Well, there is a fence. Yes, there's a fence that goes there, but it will not be it won't be the fence. The fence will be behind it, if anything.
Okay. I have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hain. Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, again, on those numbers, it appears as if there's about 10 feet between the house and the property line, right? If you said 20 feet there, according to the survey, it looks like 10 feet. It's maybe 10 and a half, 10.4 feet. So what's the dimensions of the generator?
The generator is about 36 inches long by 18 inches wide.
25 inches wide.
25 inches.
25 inches wide. So code says it has to be 5 feet from the house?
No, it doesn't, it'd be 18 inches.
18 inches, so will it be, in placing it here, will it be as close as possible?
To the house,
To the
will,
house,
yes,
it'll be
yes.
18 inches from the house.
Absolutely.
Okay, but if it's 18 inches
According
from
to
the
the
house.
survey, it's 72 inches from the house. Or 72, yeah, 72 inches from the house on the drawing.
Yeah. So why not, because what I'm saying is,
Well, I think there's a gas meter there.
If I could just clarify where it code allows, it. Our local law requires it to be 5 feet from the property line. The generator itself, through the reference standard and testing agency, allows it to be 18 inches from the primary structure. That's how close it can be to it. And again, because of the parameters and all the equipment that's around there, it's impossible.
100%.
But the code requires 5 feet from the property line, 18 inches from the house. We're looking for relief from the local law that requires the 5 feet from the property line.
okay, and the reasons why you said and you agreed that it couldn't be 18 inches from the house is because,
There's a gas meter, I believe, right there. Or there's a pool filter, gas meter, air conditioner too,
An active window.
and an active window, yeah. Everything's gotta be 5 feet from it, yeah.
okay, it can't be next to an active window?
It's gotta be 5 feet from an active window.
Okay.
That's by New York State Electric.
All right, thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mobley. Mr. Storr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I understand there's this equipment, pool equipment. You've got it on the outside of the AC, so you have the generator, the AC, and then the house. It can't go closer to the front of the house in this section over here at all?
A window. I think there's a window.
Is that where the window is, over here?
The south.
Okay. So you have to be at least 60 inches from that.
Somewhere right there, yeah.
So like if the window's here, you're putting it here, you have to be at least 60 inches off of the house here.
For sure, yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. And Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair, no questions.
Thank you. I just have one question. Mr. Petchke, you said there is a fence between the two properties, right? Number 12?
But there is, towards the backyard, you got the,
Yeah, well, I took a look today. I believe it's a chain link fence. Is that correct?
yes.
That's correct.
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Amy?
sir, chain link fence, yeah.
Okay, so it's not the type of fence that would drown out the sound of the generator? Okay.
Absolutely not.
Alrighty, any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience? Questions or comments?
No, I think I can answer.
There being none, would someone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster made the following findings. The best area variance for a single-family residence according to Part C, 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations is a type 2 action, therefore has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore is not subject to seeker review. That no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by granting the area variance relief sought. That no detriment to nearby properties will be granted by the area variance relief sought. Because there was a letter from the neighbor in support of the variance. That benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought. That the requested area variance is not substantial. That the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. That the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought. That this board is taking into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance relief sought is granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or district by granting of such a grant, or community by such grant. That within the intent and purpose of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the absolute minimum variance necessary to afford relief. And that's it.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Storr. Do we have a second? Okay, I'll second myself. And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Hain?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Meckley?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Zelak?
Yes.
Chairman Monticelli?
Yes. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Okay, I apologize to our newest member. I called him by the wrong name,
Not a problem. Okay.
but you'll get used to it.
It's all good. Not a problem.
I got a
It won't
a
be the last
glitch.
time.
No, that's right. That's right. Okay. Moving right along. Ms. Craig, would you please read the second case?
The second case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals was the petition of Stephen Priola, 3 Crabtree Lane, Lancaster, New York, 14086, for one variance for the purpose of installing a hot tub on premises owned by the petitioner at 3 Crabtree Lane, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400 zoning Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for installing a hot tub 2 feet from the primary structure. Chapter 400 zoning Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires an accessory to be minimum of 10 feet from another structure. The petitioner therefore requests an 8-foot variance.
Thank you. And do we have someone here for the crabapple case? Good evening.
Good evening, how you guys doing?
Good. Will you just give us your name and address for the record, please?
Stephen Priola, 3 Crabapple Lane.
Thank you. Go ahead and tell us about your request.
So I recently purchased a hot tub that I was in the market for the past 3 years at the Erie County Fair. That hot tub was delivered in early September. We poured a concrete pad back in 2019. I built this house in 2015. Since 2015, we've had multiple things done to my home, as I'm sure you guys can see. Anytime I needed a permit, I got a permit and a variance that goes for my fence. I needed a variance for the easement. I also paid for the permit for my neighbors for that easement. I got a permit for the patio covering on our patio, and I just did not know that I needed a permit for a hot tub based off of the amount of hot tubs in my neighborhood. I'm friends with everybody that was sent out letters, and it never came up in conversation as far as needing that hot tub. So that's not an excuse. I take full responsibility for I should have known that I needed a hot tub permit, and what the town calls for, but. If I would have known that I needed that permit, I definitely would have done it before I purchased the hot tub and made plans for that hot tub. I did put a privacy fence around the hot tub, 1, to reduce the noise for my neighbors, and 2, to make it look more aesthetic for the backyard. But it didn't come to my attention. This issue didn't get brought up until the permit was getting closed for the fence. So that's when this issue got brought up. And again, like I said, if I would have known, I would have taken the measures ahead of time to take care of this business. But by no means was I trying to hide this in any way, shape, or form. I was trying to do the right thing as far as what I've known needed to be done, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we're going to start the questioning with Mr. Storr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is actually for Matt. Matt, my understanding with the 10-foot was for a pool or a hot tub that was like in ground. For an above ground, like a movable one that me and 3 of my friends can go pick up and move, you still need to be 10 feet away?
Yeah. It's considered a swimming pool if it can hold 24 inches of water or more. So all of the necessary standards apply to it. Typically, a hot tub is not a temporary or a movable apparatus. It must stay in place only because there's some bonding requirements for the electrical system.
Okay.
Or if there's plumbing.
Okay.
It does apply to
Hey, that's new to me. I thought that that rule applied to when people were putting like those little circle hot tubs that are attached to an in-ground pool. So that is, I'm on this board and you missed it. I get it. How many of these permits do we get, West, a year?
a lot.
Okay, because I would be willing to bet most people that have a
A
hot
lot of them
tub.
are not permitted, and, you know, should there be incident, I mean, there's always a finger to point somewhere. And unfortunately, when there's non-compliance, then the insurance claims are not.
Okay, well, good to know. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Starr. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tillmans. Mr. Zelat?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any questions right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Hain?
So just to be clear, this is completely installed?
Unfortunately, it is installed. Again, if I would have known beforehand, I definitely would not take these measures.
Yep.
By no means was I doing this, trying to hide anything from the town. But it is installed, fences up, electrics ran by code, and yes, to answer your question.
You pull a permit for the electrical?
What's that?
Did you have to pull a permit for the electrical for the
I
hot tub?
believe so, yes. Yeah, it's the same person I used for the my overhang that pulled the permit for that electrical as well.
Okay. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hain. Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Michaeli?
No questions from me either, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have none either. Anyone in the audience wish to comment or have questions about
Just an
this?
inquiry, would you happen to have the capacity of gallons?
So it's 7 by 7, and it's I want to say it's 36 inches tall. I don't know the gallons though. Unfortunately, does 600 sound too big? No. Okay, because I want to say I remember the person at the fair told me 600. So if that's not outlandish, I want to say 600.
First calculate that and verify that. So
Okay.
documents are-
Okay. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Storr.
You're welcome. Whereas the zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations, a type 2 action has been determined not to have significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to secret review, that no undesirable change will be provided in the character of the neighborhood by granting of area variance relief sought, because several other neighbors have similar variances and hot tubs. That no undesirable change will be, or that no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of area variance relief sought, that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, that the requested area variance relief sought is not substantial, that the proposed area variance relief will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created, but not to the extent necessary to preclude the granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board is taking into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the area variance relief sought is granted as waived against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and/or district by, or community by such grant, that within the intent and purpose of this ordinance, the variance relief sought, if granted, is the minimum variance necessary to afford relief.
Thank you, Mr. Storr. Motion by Mr. Storr. We have a
Second.
second. Second by Mr. Michaeli. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hain?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Michaely?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes?
Mr. Zelak?
Yes.
Chair Monticelli?
Yes. Okay, you are all set. You just have to follow up with Matt and the building inspector's office.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why are we seeing this thing again?
John and I were talking about that.
Oh, Oh, okay.
Okay, next case, please, Ms. Grage.
Third case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals was the adjourned petition of Richard Chaika, 227 Ransom Road, Lancaster, New York, 14086, for 2 variances for the purpose of review and approval of creating a minor subdivision of land on premises owned by Richard Chaika at 0 Ransom Road, SBL 117.00/1/26.16, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of Lancaster. The request calls for creating a minor subdivision of land with sublots number 2, number 3, and number 4 below our 3-acre lot area. Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires a minimum lot area per dwelling unit of 3 acres. The petition therefore requests a variance of sublot number 2 of 1.4 acres, sublot number 3 of 1.3 acres, and sublot number 4 of 1.48 acres. A variance from the requirement of Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for creating a minor subdivision of land with sublots number 2, number 3, and number 4 below 300 feet road frontage. Chapter 400, zoning section 13, subsection C, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the minimum lot width of 300 feet if abutting a dedicated street. Petitioner therefore requests a variance of sublot number 2 of 100 feet, number 3 of 100 feet, and sublot number 4 of 145 feet.
Thank you. And do we have a representative here? Hello.
Hello there.
Your name
Jason-
and address, please.
Sure, Jason Burford, I'm with GPI Engineering, consultant for Richard and Anna Syka, the property owners. Thank you for allowing me to return to the board. Would you like me to post the plan? Because I know we have a new board member.
Yes, please.
Okay. So what we have before us is the proposed 4-lot subdivision, minor subdivision on Ransom Road, southeast corner of Broadway. Now, at our previous meeting, there was a concern about activity being in the floodplain. We've since redesigned this lot number 4, which pushed any disturbance outside of the floodplain. And have worked with the engineering department and the building department, which we've submitted the project to both and have received approval by both parties. There was also a negative deck for the seeker review pronounced by the town board as well. Basically no impact as it is designed. So the property, just a little background, the property was purchased by the applicants back in the 1990s. They purchased it as an investment, eventually to subdivide. They've now reached the point in time where they'd like to subdivide it. Unfortunately, the code has changed a number of times, and now the minimum lot size is 3 acres with 300 foot of frontage. So what we've done is made a proposal in order to also be able to just keep it as a minor subdivision and avoid the moratorium to get this project done. We've proposed the 4 lots as you see them, and has been related in the request. Averaging the one lot number 1 is fully compliant. Lot number 2, lots 2, 3, and 4 are narrower than the required frontage and smaller than the required area. But again, we see that there's been a number of lots. I have a handout if you would like on Ransom Road and in the immediate area that are significantly smaller than what we're proposing. So there would be no impact No impact to the neighborhood, character of the neighborhood, due to the size of the lots or the restricted frontage. So I can just, I'll just pass this out to everybody. Thank you. What we've done is the highlighted is the parcel that we're discussing. And just
Thank you.
highlight all of the lots, but most of the lots within the area that are
Thank you.
even significantly less in size than what we're proposing. So you'll notice in this handout that we have a number of lots in the neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood is even smaller lots, so we don't think this is going to be an unreasonable impact at all, or any impact. We do also point out that since there is no environmental impact as determined by the seeker review, and no impact to the character, which varies in sizes of lots, that it would be a reasonable request to grant these variances, which we have requested. Again, considering that this area is still, our areas are still larger than the areas around it, and there's no environmental drainage or character impacts. The drainage plan that you see before you has been approved by the town engineer. So if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. And we'll start with Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. Have you had the opportunity to look at alternative plans to be in compliance with the zoning requirements?
Alternative plans would basically make our subdivision into 2 lots,
Okay.
which, because of the pre-stated investment that the owners have made in the property, they are trying to recoup their investment. And so we felt that this was a reasonable accommodation, considering the code and the surrounding lots in the neighborhood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Michaeli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as to the statement you just made when you handed this out, so the character of the neighborhood is smaller lots. In some areas, I would agree with you. Here, the difference is there is a lot of this area that's undeveloped. A lot, I'm saying a large portion of this area that is undeveloped. When the town adopted the new comprehensive plan, which I think was in 2020, is when zoning changed around that same time, where the intent was to have larger lots within this district or within this AR district. I get what you're saying about they're trying to recoup their investment, and sometimes it happens where somebody has the misfortune of buying a piece of property and zoning changes almost immediately after, a month later. But in this case, it seems that they've owned it for quite a long time. And when you own property for 20 or 30 years and don't build on it, chances are good that zoning is going to change over that time. So it doesn't seem to me to be, a matter of, oh, they just had bad luck because the zoning changed immediately. This was over a long period of time. If the town ever was to achieve the intent of the plan to have larger lots, it seems to me like areas like this is where it should be enforced. We have had other variances which we've granted for a similar use, but they were in areas that were fully developed. And in those instances, I made the argument, the same argument that you're saying, that the character of the neighborhood was already defined. Here, the character of the neighborhood is kind of undefined, and it's been large open parcels. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McLean. Mr. Storr?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to echo his statements. I have no further questions at this time.
Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also kind of agree with what Mr. Mike Lee stated, so I have no other questions.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question. So, did you talk to your clients about possibly going to 2 lots? Is that off the table?
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
totally against it.
Yeah, in order to recoup the investment. They're going to, this was the reasonable picture that we saw we could do in order to, you know, to go to 2 lots and require no variances. That wouldn't be
What's the address?
able to recuperate.
What's the address of the lot 1? I'm sorry for interrupting.
There is no specific address, it's just 0 Ransom Road. There's no
So
established.
if you keep bringing up recoup, I'm sorry, but purchasing property in the 90s and selling it now as somebody that has bought a home and is looking for another one, I'm trying to find what he purchased it for, and I'm finding it very difficult to believe that breaking this from 1 parcel into 2 or 3, he would lose money on this deal. So if you could give me an address so I could try to find a record or sale to show that he might be actually losing, is there, like, what would be the address that I would look up to find how much they purchased this property for in the 90s?
There's never been an established address for this location. It's always been vacant land. And I would agree, is it going to be, could they sell 1 lot and make more than they sold it for in 1997? Certainly. But the cost of money over those past 30 years is obviously to be taken into consideration. This is a retired couple, you know, so this is the opportunity to finally establish this subdivision.
That was basically where I was going with this, is I'm pretty sure the property purchase price was a lot cheaper than it is now if you were to sell it as 1 parcel. That was my intent. No further questions.
Yeah, and by recuperating, I just mean an investment property.
Sure.
You know,
I get
recuperate
it.
the
And they got
interest.
taxes to pay on it, but you're also paying on vacant property versus actual school tax,
Sure.
county tax. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr.
SBL
Zelak.
number either.
If you find something, please just let us know.
Found nothing. But I will.
Okay. Mr. Hain? do you
I have
any
no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, actually, I think we're all on the same wavelength here in terms of the cost of property in 1997, you said?
I think that's what they said it was. Yeah.
Okay, are the petitioners in the audience?
Mhm.
Would you
Raymond and Hannah.
ask if they know how much they paid for it? Do they recall?
99 or 98, something like that.
So
90.
about 100,000.
Okay,
Yeah, almost 100,000.
okay.
At that time, it was actually zoned commercial
Yeah.
corner.
Okay. All right. And I'm curious about why lot number 1 is so big. It's 400 feet frontage when code only requires 300, and it is 3 acres.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it meets that 3 acres, so it meets the code. The other consideration was the neighbor to the east who has infringed on the property. We didn't want to have to deal with possibly 2 lots being impacted by his non-permitted accessory building that sits on our property.
The neighbor to the east has a building that sits on the petitioner's property?
Yes, yeah, right here, this shows the survey. His driveway comes over, and then he has an accessory structure. It's a shed, I think, I don't know, it's 15 by something, that sits, pretty much 60% of it sits on the applicant's property.
Is that with their consent?
No.
This was a non-permitted shed, it's 14 by 24. On identification, the owner was notified, and a permit was issued to relocate that shed. I'm just not aware of what the plans are for the driveway.
Okay. Thanks, Matt, for clearing that up.
Madam Chair, can I?
Yes.
Are you done, or?
Yes, no, please go ahead.
I guess if that issue is rectified with the neighbor, would going to like a 3 lots, breaking this up into 3 lots, that would potentially get them into conforming, so that they conform with the code, by breaking that up into 3 lots?
They would need 2 lots. Even with 3, they would need a variance.
Well, you would, but it wouldn't be as substantial.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I guess, lessen
Yeah.
the size of it, you know, or like the size of the variance.
Yeah,
I'm just-
the 4 lots totaled equal 7.86 acres. So if they were to divide it into 3 lots, and, make the first lot smaller, they could divide it evenly into 2.62 acres, and they would have 959 feet of frontage, so that would be beyond what code requires. So you made the comparison with the other lots that were smaller in the area, but all of those lots were divided before the code changed. Is that correct?
Yes, I think except 1 or 2 that are on the north side of Broadway,
Okay.
which have recently been allowed and granted variances of roughly the same size.
Okay, on Ransom Road, north of Broadway? Okay, I think that's the one you were referring to.
It was the 2-lot, I think it was a 2-lot subdivision.
Yeah,
That was
that was,
sort of an extenuating
That had
circumstance.
a lot of extenuating circumstances into that.
But it was just the one, we haven't granted variances to any others that I'm aware of. Okay. Okay, all right, I think that does it for me. Anybody else on the board that has thought of anything else they want to
I don't know,
ask?
I guess I would say, like, if you'd be up for looking into that 3-lot subdivision rather than the 4 lots, I don't know, I think that would possibly be, that might work for this board.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically taking, money from their pocket. Like you said, code has changed, granted, but a loss of a lot will take a substantial kick in the pants. And the reason for, like I said, we're not asking it to be as small as a number of lots that were granted, a year or 2 before the code changed, which particularly right around the corner, this neighbor has a flag lot and 3 lots that are less than an acre and just about 100 foot of frontage. So when I refer to lots that are in the neighborhood, that's what I'm referring to. You have these very tiny ones that are established. What we're asking for is somewhere in between, actually bridging those small, tiny lots up to the code requirement. And in the interest of designing the drainage to meet the requirements and all the other requirements, environmental requirements, that's what we ended up with.
Sir, before I make my motion, I'd like to say this as professionally as possible. I fully understand what you and your clients are working through, and you have my sympathies, and I understand that your clients want to have profit as much as they can from their investment. However, the code was changed due to the fact that the belief that they have is shared by many, and one of the big beliefs by myself and many people that are citizens of Lancaster is that we are developing this area too much. We are taking too much unoccupied land and jamming as many houses as we possibly can in as close there as we can. Everybody that has established houses, not everybody, several people that have established neighborhoods that have been there for a long time are starting to complain of drainage issues, are starting to complain of low water pressure issues, and the code was changed to reflect those beliefs by a lot of people in this town. The idea of cramming as many houses into possible into a small area when a reasonable solution of 3 which would pretty much, yes, it would be a financial negative to your clients, but it would pretty much suffice the code change. That's why I'm going to make the following motion.
but we didn't go to the audience yet.
What?
We didn't go to the audience yet.
Okay, sorry, my apologies.
No worries. Okay, we're done with the board, I think. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions? Okay, there being none, Mr. Storr?
Yes. That this area variance for a single-family residence according to Part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, Regulations, is type 2 action is determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore it is not subject to a secret review. I believe that an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood by granting the area variance relief sought, because the code is enforcing that properties be large enough distance, and this would, there is a viable option for them to pursue outside of these variances. So I am requesting for a failure for this, or a denial for this motion.
Okay, is that it?
That is it.
Okay, we have a motion for denial, just for all of our refreshment of the way things go with the denial is a yes vote is in favor of the denial. A no vote is against the denial.
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Mickley, thank you.
Mr. Hain?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Mickley?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Zelak?
Yes.
Chairman Siley?
Yes. Okay, the request is denied. Okay, Andrea, whenever you're ready, would you read the fourth case, please?
Fourth case considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals was petition of Samantha Newell and Mike Tebolt, Ivy Lee Construction, 765 Wolf Road, North Tonawanda, New York, 14120, for 2 variances for the purpose of constructing an addition to the primary structure on premises owned by Robert Beckman at 49 Chestnut Corner, Lancaster, New York, to wit, a variance from the requirements of the Chapter 14, zoning Section 14, subsection D, subsection Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for constructing an addition to the primary structure 7 feet away from an existing non-conforming shed. Chapter 400, zoning Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the minimum location of an accessory structure from another structure of 10 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 3-foot variance. A variance from the requirements of Chapter 400, zoning Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster. The request calls for an existing non-conforming shed that is placed 3 feet from the side property line. Chapter 400, zoning Section 14, subsection D, Schedule B of the Code of the Town of Lancaster requires the minimum location of an accessory structure from a side lot line of 5 feet. The petitioner therefore requests a 2-foot variance.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, I'm Mike Thiebolt with Ivy Lee Construction. Address of our company, 765 Walk Road, North Tonawanda, 14112. And we are here, we're putting a covered patio structure on the back of the home of Mr. Beckman. And there's a existing non-conforming shed that we're gonna get a little bit too close to, and the shed is a little bit too close to the side property line. I do have an updated survey for y'all, because I believe the packet we gave you had an older survey in it. We also have a letter here from the neighbor, the side, that we're requesting variance on. That he has no problem with the shed at the current location. Sorry, I printed these out on such large paper.
Easier to see.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This letter is copy of my Love it, Leroy.
Thank you.
We can share if you need to.
Sure.
Matt, do you need copies?
Before you talk.
Thank you. This letter is from Leroy Overhoff. I am the resident at 47 Chestnut Corner, Lancaster, New York, 14086, Leroy Overhoff. The letter is in regard to the variance request at 49 Chestnut Corner, the property to my left, viewed from the street. The variance request is for an existing non-conforming shed to remain in its current location. It is my opinion that the current placement of the shed has no adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of our neighborhood or my property. I have no issue with the current location of the shed, which is great, addressing item number 2 on the request, but number 1 addresses having an addition to the house, which is not addressed in the letter. Would you like to comment on that?
So this was a little bit of a unique situation. So the shed was there. We applied for a permit for the patio extension, which was granted, but that was based upon an old survey that did not show the shed on it. So when the size, once we had that in, we had the concrete footers put in. When that was inspected, it's when it was noted that the shed was too close. So that's how we ended up here. So concrete's poured, the footers are in, so we can't adjust the size of the structure that's going up. So it's really the shed that becomes the issue.
Okay. But is this neighbor aware of the addition?
He is.
Okay. And he's okay with that as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, was there anything else that you wanted to tell us, Mr. Thibault?
So the shed is in place. There's a fence that goes up to the shed. There's no other really location on the property where that can go, where it's not going to be non-conforming with the pool or another structure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we start with you, Mr. Michaely? Kind of lost track.
You started with me last time, but I can go first if you like.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. We keep talking about the shed. And the neighbor said they had no problem with the shed, and sheds often are, not the most important thing here. Our application talked about an addition, so it is, could you describe the addition? Because all we have here is pictures of.
I believe in the packet we sent, there should be drawings of the addition.
Did I miss that?
Got footers.
Yeah, I see their pictures.
Let's see, I
Well,
can,
that's the survey that shows where it would be, or where.
Now we're talking.
sorry, those aren't on.
So, I mean, we get people in here, like, we just saw, there was a young man here who put in a hot tub without realizing he needed a permit. You went ahead and put in the permit, the footers and everything, and went this far without?
We had a permit for the structure.
There was a permit issued with an improper plot plan submitted when it was reviewed. This was an inaccurate plot plan. Historically, the department never required as-built surveys with improvements. So it was a vacant, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say vacant. It was a parcel that had a house located on it. And again, it was more or less of an administrative permit review. Went through the motions to make sure that the building addition was compliant with the state code and didn't meet any of the necessary actions that related to the zoning code. And that's what happened. It was just an inaccurate, we didn't have information of where a shed was other than 10 feet from, or 5 feet from the property. Same thing with the in-ground pool. There was really no dive down location of the in-ground pool in relation to it was never plotted on a survey.
Okay. So a permit was given for, okay, so you didn't do.
Yeah, we didn't start the addition.
Getting at, you didn't.
And it was issued in error because of the information provided.
Okay, and if you could, it's coming around, so it's an overhang to the existing patio? That's what we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I have no more questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Shore?
Thank you, Madam Chair, no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Tillmans?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Zelak?
Thank you, Madam Chair, I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hang?
Matt, I have a question where was the shed and maybe, based on what you said, the pool installed without permits?
They were installed with permits, again, back in the day.
Okay.
Again, when a submittal comes in, it's typical, construction drawings, a plot plan, value, and you focus on the project at hand.
So at the-
Unfortunately, it may have been in haste, it may have been in volume. I'm not going to put blame on the applicant, I'm not going to put blame on the department. These are the instances where I'm going to put a plug in for the building and zoning department. Properly staffed department. Take care of this. And we wouldn't be here today.
Well said.
Fair enough.
Hope that was
Second time.
You don't get to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hain?
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, all right. Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. I think all of my questions have been answered. Anyone in the audience? Okay, I don't see anyone. Do we have a motion? You know,
You want to shut up? Okay,
Fine, whatever. Yeah, I'll take it. Why not? Let's run it. Whereas zoning board of appeals of the town of Lancaster made the following findings, that this area variance for a single-family residence according to part 617.5 C17 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations is type 2 action, has been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment, therefore is not subject to a secret review, that no undesirable change will be provided by the character of the neighborhood by granting the area variance relief sought, because neighbors approve of one of the variances. That no detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting the area variance relief sought, that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance relief sought, because the applicant applied for a permit and already poured concrete footers for said variance in good faith. That the requested area variance is not substantial, that the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district, that the alleged difficulty is self-created but not to the extent necessary to preclude granting of the area variance relief sought, that this board has taken into consideration the benefit of the applicants if the variance relief sought is granted as weighted against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant, that no commercial enterprise other than those permitted by Chapter 400 of the Code of the Town of Lancaster will be conducted on the premises.
Thank you. Second?
Second it.
Second.
Mr. Hain?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews? Mr. Mikely?
Yes.
Mr. Storr?
Yes.
Mr. Tillmans?
Yes.
Mr. Zelak?
Yes.
Chair Monticelli?
Yes. Congratulations.
much.
It's unanimous.
You're not running a business out of your patio, are you?
I wonder why you threw that in there.
It's for, in addition to home and garages. It's an addition to the home.
All right. Okay, anyone have any other business they'd like to discuss?
Am I an alternate?
No, that's ancient
I know.
history apparently. All right, motion to adjourn?
Second. Oh, I didn't make that motion.
You didn't.
Matt has something important to say.
Keith, thanks for having me.
Shut it off.
Is this Keith's party?
Well, I'm glad I could make it. I had about 8 seconds to spare.
I'm kidding you.
I know, but I got here early this
I'm
week.
kidding you because you're the old motion.
That's early.
Your party and we're just